Hello, I have a card for you today featuring this cute little rabbit from the Playing in the Rain stamp set. This originally came out in the January to April 23 mini catalog, and it has carried over into the new 23-24 annual catalog. So you can still get this and the coordinating dies. And we are going to make a fun fold that I just saw Patty Bennett do on her YouTube channel, which is pattystamps.com. And it's just a really sweet and simple fun fold where this piece folds back, opening up the card. And I didn't even put a little center panel in here, but we'll do that on the one we make today. So we're just going to make this sweet little card. I am using some retired pattern paper out of my stash just to use it up, but of course you could just mix up the colors and use any pattern paper that you have on hand. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start by making the card base so that you can see how simple this little fun fold is. I have a piece of cardstock here. Again, mine is retired. This is Bermuda Bay. I'm just all about using up my scraps, and I hope that you continue to do that as well. But I have cut this piece. This is just a half sheet of cardstock. So it's 5.5 by 8.5, as you can see. And we're going to trim that just a bit so that the overall card is going to be 5.5 by 7.5 instead. So we're just going to trim 1 inch off the side here. So now we've got 5.5 by 7.5. And we could save this little piece for another project. I'm going to score this along the long side here. I'm going to score it at 3 1/4 using my gray scoring blade. Get my cutting blade out of the way. Then I'm going to slide it down to 6.5 and score it again. So again, I've got a score line here at 3 1/4 and again at 6.5. And that is all I need to do for this really simple fun fold card. So I want to fold the top part over. So the first score line comes toward me like a normal card. Give that a nice burnish with the bone folder. And then this little flap we're going to fold away from us. So it's kind of accordion folded. Hit it with the bone folder. And then the full size of the card, when it's laid flat, is our normal 4 1/4 by 5.5. So it fits beautifully into a standard envelope. But then you have this little flap here that's going to peel back and open the card for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and start decorating. So what I've done is just put some patterned paper panels on each of these sides. Let's go ahead and do that. My pattern paper is retired. This is the old Pattern Party paper, but just choose any pattern paper that you have in your stash that has some coordinating colors. So let's go ahead and trim this to fit. Our front piece here is 5.5 by 3 1/4. So I am going to leave about 1/4 inch. So I'll make this 3 by 5 1/4. So let's make that 3 wide by 5 1/4 long or tall. And that will fit perfectly nested into our front panel. Now this piece is 5.5 tall by 1 inch wide. So I'm going to take this stripe piece and I'm going to end up making that 3/4 inches by 5 1/4. But I want some of, if you can see in the final card, I'm using this Pale Papaya cardstock. So I definitely want that Pale Papaya to show. So I just want to make sure that when I cut this, I think I'm going to cut off a little bit of that dark green stripe and just get rid of it. And then I'll go over to the 3/4 inch mark, and I'm actually doing that on this side of the trimmer when I have a small piece. And now I've got this piece that shows that pale papaya in there, as well as my pool party and some of the colors that I want to feature. So that's going to look good. I like that. And we just need to trim the length of it so it's 5 1/4, just like our other piece. Okay, so we'll have those two that go like that. And then I think I already cut, yes I did, I already cut a panel that is plain white. It's the exact same size as our pattern paper, because the inside section right here is going to be the exact same. Once we fold this back, you can see it's the exact same as our front section. So our panel inside is again 3 by 5 1/4. So we've got all of those pieces ready. I'm going to put my trimmer away, and then let's go ahead and just put our pattern paper right on to the card base. I'm just going to use a little seal. You could use liquid glue, whatever you want. And I'm leaving a nice margin all around so that I can see a border of my Bermuda Bay cardstock. Put a little seal in the corners of this one. That one goes on the front. Remember, when you're trimming your paper, if your pattern has a direction to it, to make sure that that it's vertical like this. Mine does not have a direction since it's just polka dots, so I'm not worried about that at all. And then I'm going to put a little on the back of my white panel and slide that right on the inside. There we go. So this is the card. It seems super, super simple. Once you put the elements on the front is when it kind of starts to feel like extra special. But at the moment, all that happens is this little piece folds back right here. Okay, and then I'll show you on the completed card, we attach our focal points to this little side piece so that when this folds back, it opens and allows the card to open. All right, so let's get started working on our focal point. I'll start with our stamping. We're going to stamp the bunny in StazOn ink and use a little watercoloring, and then we'll stamp this happy birthday. So the bunny comes from the Playing in the Rain stamp set, as I mentioned, but they didn't, I wanted a birthday card and they didn't have a birthday sentiment in here. So I do hang on to some of the old sentiment stamps. So this is a discontinued sentiment stamp called Many Messages, but any sentiment stamp from your stash will do. This happy birthday was a good size and it was the message that I wanted, so I ended up using that. So let's go ahead and stamp those out. I'm using a piece of our watercolor paper and StazOn ink so that it doesn't smear when we watercolor. I'm just going to ink that up really well. Give it a good press. And there's my image. I probably need to re-ink my pad. It's not as dark black as I would like it to be, but that's okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up my sentiment as well. And I'm just going to put that down here in the corner like that. That's it for our stamping. Let's go ahead and color this guy in, and I'm going to zoom in a little. There we go. So for that, I have, get my scraps out of the way here. I have a couple of the watercolor pencils and our water painter, and then just a tissue or a napkin. And my water painter is filled with water. You can either fill this barrel with water and just squeeze it to get some water out, or you can have a cup with water and use it like a traditional paintbrush. You can do it either way. So I'm going to start by coloring with my colored pencils. I like to have a pretty dull tip. And I like to just kind of scribble the color in. I'm not pressing very hard because I don't want this to really get stuck into the fiber of the papers. I'm just kind of laying some of the pigment down. Just for a little fun, I put a little hint of the Granny Apple Green. That first color was Coastal Cabana. Then I put a little hint of the Granny Apple Green on the inside of his collar, as though it was kind of a contrasting collar there. And then I took the Flirty Flamingo, which really isn't the color in our patterned paper, but, oops, I grabbed Calypso Coral by mistake. Oops, that's not the one I want. Let's get the Flirty Flamingo out of here. Here is the Flirty Flamingo. But the watercolor set that I have doesn't have the Fresh Freesia in there. So I'm just picking another pink. It really doesn't matter. And all I'm doing is just putting a little color kind of on the inside of his ears, in his nose, and then I'll give him some rosy cheeks. I'll give him a little hint of color there. Okay? And I'm not worried about the puddle because the die does not cut that puddle out and we're not using it. So I'm just going to go ahead and give my water painter a squeeze to make sure I have some water coming out. And then I will just activate that ink, those watercolor pencils, by just adding a little bit of water with the tip of my brush and giving that a really nice painterly look. You can always use the tip of your water painter directly onto the pencil and get a little bit of more concentrated pigment if you want to add a little shadow, which I'm going to do here. I'm just going to kind of tap a little darker pigment into the neck a little bit where it would be folded over and have a little shadow, and along the center here, just to make the jacket look a little less flat. And then I want to make sure to clean my water painter very good so I don't have any color left on it before I go on to activate my next color. So now I'm going to go into the nose and a little bit here in the ears. And you can see I did not need much color at all, and when you activate it, it gets a little more intense. And then those rosy cheeks, I'm just kind of blurring that out a little bit so you get a hint of those rosy cheeks. So that's it for my coloring. I will end up putting a little color on this cloud die cut, but I'll do that after it's cut out. So let's go ahead and get the machine in here and we'll cut out our images. Move that stuff to the side. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this better. Okay, so I have, these are the stitched circle, Stylish Shapes stitched circle dies. And I'm going to do the largest circle in Pale Papaya cardstock, and then the next smallest circle in just plain white, basic white cardstock. And then I'll do I'm going to cut my rabbit so he's just separated from the rest of the paper, so he fits here on the plate, on the cutting plate. And the coordinating die. So the coordinating dies, let me just show you those. The coordinating dies for the, there we go, for the Playing in the Rain stamp sets. They cut out the images, but they also have some other really cute accessories, like a little fence and a kite with some decorating elements for the kite, a little umbrella, some little blades of grass and some clouds and some butterflies. So really cute die set. I'm going to go ahead and put the matching die onto our little bunny there. And I do want to cut get another little piece of paper. I do want to cut a cloud out. So I am going to, this is not stamped, that's just going on some of the same white watercolor paper that I used for the Happy Rabbit there. So I am using a different base. This is called a Magic Matte. This is replaces the bottom plate that Stampin' Up! Offers, and it's just a self-healing version of that plate so that it does not warp as easily and it does not scratch up and get as used up as easily. It kind of self-heals. So I'm using that plate on the bottom and then just my standard Stampin' Up! Plates on the top. So I've got all of those lined up. Let's go ahead and put our top plate on carefully, and then I'm going to crank that through. Get my machine out of here. Okay, so that's all of our goodies. I will zoom back in. All right, so I'm going to use one of these clouds, and it really doesn't matter which one. I think I'll just use this largest one. And I'm taking a little balmy blue, and I'm just kind of putting some circles along the bottom of the cloud, very lightly, like that. And then I will take my water painter again and just kind of blend out that color. And where'd my little napkin go? Remove some of the color and soften that edge a little bit. And then your cloud has just a little bit of dimension to it, so it has some shadow on the bottom. And then I'll save my other two clouds for another project. So to create our focal point, I am going to layer these two circles together. So I'll just use a little glue, or you can use your seal or whatever you want. And we'll put those two circles together. They fit right inside of one another. And then I did use Stampin' Dimensionals for our rabbit to pop him up. And that's going to go kind of off to the right-hand side, just so we don't want him right in the dead center, because I want some room over here to put that cloud and to put our sentiment. So the sentiment, I just trimmed it really close. You can use your trimmer for this if you'd like, or you can just go right along. My sentiment's like nice and boxy, so it's really easy to follow, but you could certainly trim out a little strip for your sentiment. I'm just going to keep that nice and close and just do my best to cut it as straight as possible. And then my cloud is going to go up here. So let's get our card base back here and start looking where we want things to go. This is going to go over here to this edge so that nothing is sticking out past the edge, so it fits in the envelope. And then everything that is to the left of this seam needs to be free. You cannot stick that down because you only want it to stick to this little panel on the right-hand side. So when we glue this cloud on, I'm just going to put glue on one side of the cloud so that it only sticks to my circle, even though it's hanging off a little bit. Sorry if I've got my hands in the way there. But I only want it to stick to my circle, and I don't want glue on this part that's hanging off. I have a pale papaya ribbon just because that was what matched my project. Again, you could use any ribbon here. Let's just take a small little, oopsie, piece of that. And I just folded mine over in a little crisscross, and I think I'll use some glue dots. So I think I will put a glue dot on here to fold it in half and kind of crisscross it like that. And then I will use my take your pick tool to grab my glue dot and put it down here in the lower corner where I want that to stick, just like that. And I don't like my edge there very much, so let's trim that up a little bit so that's a little neater. There we go. Prettier bottom to our ribbon. And then I just want my sentiment to hang off the edge here also. So I think I'm going to put a dimensional right here on top of the ribbon and use that to pop up my sentiment. So let's take one of these, and again, I only want it to be on the one side of my sentiment. And just kind of make sure that that guy's looking pretty straight. We'll put that like so. So all we have left to do is to attach our whole focal point here to the card, which we are only going to do by gluing this section of the back of here. So if I flip this over like that, I only want my glue to be on this side of my end of my front flap. So I can use some nice strong liquid glue here. And I'm just going to put it over on this one side. And then flip this back over and make sure that I'm all the way out to the edge here. And give that a press, and then before it sets up too much, I'm going to just open it and make sure I don't have any glue seeping out from the back, which I do not. I'm glad to see, but I just want to, in case I had any, then I could kind of rub that off before it glued to the card front. I'm just going to give that a nice press into place. And now I have a super cute birthday card with an interesting, like, it looks a little more complex than it is, but a really cute little fun fold. I want my sentiment to be a little straighter. I might have to tuck another dimensional under there to straighten that out. But so all this does is it opens like this, and you can write your message inside or stamp something inside or whatever you'd like. But you've got a really sweet happy birthday card, bright and cheerful. And I love the interesting way that this opens. So thanks to Patty Bennett for sharing this design. I think she got it from someone else, although I don't remember who. But her website is where I saw it. So thanks for the fun fold design. And I hope you guys enjoyed this card. And if you want this Playing in the Rain bundle with the stamps and the coordinating dies, that is still available in the annual catalog. And go check it out online. There is a link to my shop in the description box below. Thank you very much. Have a terrific day.